Hello, Alexis. What's going on? We have Lana with us in the Discord here, as you'll see in the top
Hey.
left-hand corner. Uh, okay, so similar to the last one, it's going to be very, very short. Gonna try to keep it as concise as possible. You're playing Moira this time, so you know the tip is probably going to be different than it was last time, because last time I was looking at your Ana play and I said, watch your spacing, watch your positioning, because you were too close to the team at times. So for Moira, you're not gonna have the same fear and worry. Moira is gonna be very dependent on playing within that 15-meter range, because that's the range of her healing. Which means she's going to be a lot closer to the team than otherwise identified with Ana. Um, okay. We're going to just look through this for a little bit. I'm going to try to just identify a few things and then pick out one or two to start looking at in particular. King's Row, you guys all, or like not all of you, but three of you picked out King's Row to look at. The problem with King's Row is that largely you guys fall apart in this first attack, and then you never really get another 6v6 after that because you don't have good regrouping mechanics. So King's Row is going to be the first one that we look at holistically. But just for futures notice, just be aware of maps where you just kind of get like hard rolled. Maybe you wanted me to look at the attack. Try to leave that in the DMs if you can. Probably send out a message about that because like I said, I'm keeping these very, very concise for right now. I want you guys to get into the gameplay and get into the team stuff because that's what we're really here for. I'm just kind of doing this briefly so that you can continue to work on your individual things. Okay, so what I'm really looking at here in both of these fights for Moira is that sometimes you get lost in the sauce of damage. There's been two key moments now where you are doing the kind of like back and forth trade of healing and doing damage to manage your resource, but you've started to lose the understanding of how much healing that any your tanks need, and it becomes like a back seat to you managing your resource. So it's going to be really important as more to manage your resource on a moment to moment basis. But even more important is going to be actually keeping your team alive, because that's the end goal of playing support and the end goal of managing your resource. So right here, you're going to recognize that your tanks make a misplay, rotate back, and then start healing them. But shortly after, you're going to trade healing them for dealing damage. And I don't think this is directly you managing your resource, but that small kind of like readjustment causes STT to go down. And the reason that I say that this causes STT to go down is because Moira does a lot of fucking healing. You probably could have bought him a few more seconds. He also had Lana on him. So I know that he probably would have been able to get value out of this positioning if he had the kind of hard carry support pocket healing from both of his supports that he actually needed to be able to recover from the massive mistake that he makes. So we want to make sure that when we're playing, and then again right here, kind of focusing on the damage instead of being able to actually heal your team up. Close should have been at least half health at this point, but you're going to get to her at the last second, and they're just going to out DPS you. Or not out DPS, but they're going to out DPS your healing, right? So we want to make sure that we're really focusing on trying to keep our team alive as much as we are focusing on trying to manage our resource, because then again here when we get to the choke, you're going to start to do that pitter patter back and forth. You deal a little bit of healing, a little bit of damage, you keep your team topped up to be able to keep your resource at maximum volume. But once STT starts to get into this brawl phase, you really need to focus on getting that full healing out and really keeping him up, because there's a lot of things in this game that can do damage through shield or maneuver around shield to still get damage through. So regardless of the fact that he has Lana on him, he's still walking into 6 people, and he's going to need that full pocket from you consistently. So right here where you start damaging a bunch, you're basically sacrificing your tank. Now, it would have been good if you had been damaging to try to maybe like build up the coalescence a second longer or something like that, but you also could have done that by healing, because healing gives you more ultimate charge as Moira than damage. And then the Coalescence probably would have been able to swing this fight back if you had also been keeping STT properly alive. But we want to make sure, first and foremost, that we're not overvaluing damage as Moira, not overvaluing managing our resources Moira, and actually paying attention to who needs the healing and when. Because there's a few times where I think you probably could have saved the fight and you just don't do it. We're going to watch for a little bit longer. We're probably going to watch until you guys lose third, because it's fairly short, all things considered. This is another instance where you could have ulted or prioritized healing a little bit more. You seem to get fairly preoccupied with the Reaper up there, which is not a bad thing while things aren't happening. You should have just walked into spawn. You should have just walked around them. You could have made it. But it's fine focusing on the Reaper on the high ground when your team isn't taking any damage. The burst healing is, you know, not good enough to keep a team up through Grav. So, you know, once you know that Reaper that's up there is up there and your team is grabbed, you really need to start popping ults to counter and stabilize. That's just unfortunate and makes me sad. Sure, it made you sad too, but it happens. Now we swap to BAP. Don't immo the tanks. They have tanking abilities. That's, yeah. I don't know if you need me to elaborate that more, but you protected people who had protection. You need to be a little bit closer for that that burst heal or the hand clench thingy to actually get value. But all in all, yeah, we want to make sure that you're actually, first of all, use your ultimate maybe a little bit earlier. But second of all, make sure that you're not overvaluing doing damage. Because as much as you might want to, you know, be able to confirm kills or take people down so that your team has a higher output in damage, and you want to get that dual value for supports where you're healing and doing damage, there does come a point where you need to be a support and you need to heal bot for a little bit and just full heal your tanks or full heal whoever's getting pressured down. And there was 2 instances there where you needed to do it and you did it in either. Really 3, because that Grav you should have ulted into and really just put all of your resources to try to keep your team propped up. But I think the Grav is a little bit more contextual and not as hard of a definite moment as the other 2 are. So start working on trying to think about, you know, how you prioritize your healing and where you put your resources. As you can see, people are starting to trickle in, which is good timing for this to end and for us to get into team stuff. So, deuces, Alexis.